What's up guys, I'm randomfrankp, and Steelseries just dropped their very own lineup of Artisan mousepads. We have their brand new Steelseries QCK Performance lineup with their speed, balance, and control. So what we'll do to start this off is a general overview of the pads and things they share, like the different sizes, the stitching, the base, the more general stuff, and then we'll dive into each one individually to learn more about the properties, how it feels, how it performs, who it's for, what it's gonna be best optimized for, all that kind of good stuff. And along the way, I'll give you guys an idea of like similar mouse pads out there, what I think about them, my general experience, all that good stuff. But as you can see, we have the three of them here in this nice box. So I'll take them out because these are just like a little PR kit that we got from Steelseries. I've actually been using the larger pad. So they do make these in an extended model. So real quick, I'll just clear this out of the way. And I spent about 2 days or so on each pad to really get an idea about it. I'm not one of the guys out there who's going to, just put out a review after 1 day. I got to spend some time with them. Now, what I really like about this is Steelseries is really one of the OGs when it comes to mouse pads because their QCK has been around for a long time and has been a fan favorite, very, very popular out there. And now they're really introducing a whole new market and a whole new demographic to the Artisan side of things because Artisan mouse pads have been on the rise like crazy over the last few years. This is going to introduce a lot of new people to different blends and materials and different play styles. So this is really cool to be seeing a mass-produced lineup of Artisan equivalent pads. So taking a closer look at all three, again, we have the speed, the control, and the balance. The speed's gonna be that smoother, quicker surface for those quick flicks. Control, obviously aim for more micro movements and precision in game, and balance being a blend of the two. And each pad comes in 2 different sizes, which is really cool. You have your extra large extended pad, which I always prefer, which is 900 by 400 millimeters, a pretty standard extended size. And you also have the smaller large version coming in at 490 by 400. And what's gonna catch a lot of people's attention is the price here. You can get the large for just $39 and the extra large for $49, which is a crazy good deal. Some Artisans are 80 and up. I've seen some for like 120 and up. These are really well priced. Each pad's gonna come in at 3.5 millimeters thick. And while they all have a different surface, they all share that same neoprene base. And being perfectly honest, at first impressions, the base itself doesn't feel like anything, unique. It honestly just feels like a standard EVA foam. But something about this blend here adds a lot of weight to the pad. So that's gonna help it from not sliding around on your desk. I had 0 issues with it during my use. And with that added weight, you can literally, with the extended pad, hang like 75% of it off your desk and it won't fall. So the properties here to that neoprene base, it's heavy. It's pretty interesting. And then lastly, before we dive into the individual pads, we'll talk about the stitching here, which is really, really well done. The stitching on all pads is non-raised, so it never comes above the actual surface of the mouse pad. It's very, very tight. I had practically no fraying on the pads. And with that stitching being off to the side, you can literally drag your mouse off of the pad and there will be 0 contact or interference with the stitching. So that's also really, really impressive. I did not expect that at all. Might not sound like a big deal, but I've used some good pads that had terrible stitching. And here, it's some of the best I've seen. And speaking of which, let's dive into the first one, which is the QCK Speed, which I think is gonna be a massive fan favorite out there. As the name implies, with it being a speed pad, this is gonna be perfect for those quick flicks and fast gameplay. If you play at higher sensitivities or higher DPIs, this is gonna go hand in hand with that. The surface to the pad itself is very, very smooth. It's a low friction pad, obviously. And this is also gonna depend on, like the mouse you have and the skates that you use. But really, a speed pad is one of those that's gonna play best with a lot of different skates out there. Now, the surface itself to the speed pad is this really nice interwoven nylon blend. It's gonna give you a really consistent glide on the X and Y axis. And you can see, taking a closer look, it's almost like this grid pattern. Now, if you're looking for comparisons out there, I've dipped my toes in the Artisan scene over the past 2 years, have a good, accumulation of pads. This feels nearly identical to my Artisan Raiden pad in the soft version. With, some Artisan pads, you can get them configured in like soft, medium, for like the actual stiffness and stuff. But I have the soft Raiden, and honestly, it does feel identical. So for a speed pad, if you're familiar with the Raiden, that's nearly 1-to-1, which is very, very interesting. Like the blend here, the actual stitching, it looks almost identical. I will say, I think the speed pad here from Steelseries is a little bit faster. There is a bit of a speed blend across all 3 pads that we'll talk about, but yeah, if you're familiar with the Raiden, this is gonna feel pretty much home to you. Now, the speed pad is nothing like the glorious ice pad out there, if you're familiar with that, in terms of like that real spongy glass surface. It's not like that at all. It's not one of those hard surfaces out there. It's not a glass pad. For a cloth speed pad, this is going to impress a lot of people. So then now we'll move on over to the QCK Control Pad, which, yes, as the name implies, all about control here. And my first impression when I started using it was, this is a very rough texture overall, right? With it being, the opposite of a smooth speed pad, very high friction here to this blend, which is gonna give you more of that control, as the name implies. It has this micro texture surface to it, so really high density in this stitching, and it's a polyester material, so there's really no uniformity when you take a closer look. Kind of resembles like a rug, that's what the picture reminds me of, and that's gonna give it that more natural resistance. So this is gonna be perfect for accuracy, stopping easily, those quick micro corrections, micro adjustments. Low DPI, low sensitivity, so if you snipe in game, this is gonna be a dream for you. You guys know by now, my main go-to is still Battlefield 5. I snipe all the time in there, and this feels great with that. And for comparisons, one of the pads that I've had in the past and keep coming back to every now and then, again, from Artisan, is their Hayate Otsu. This is probably the best comparison. Again, these feel nearly identical. So Steelseries is taking a page out of the Artisan scene, no doubt. The only difference is really visually, while the control pad has that very, scattered, no uniformity texture to the weaving, the Hayate Otsu has a sort of like chevron pattern throughout. But that doesn't like affect the gameplay or anything. They do play and feel nearly identical. The main difference, I would say, to the control versus an Artisan pad in general and the Hayate Otsu is with this being 3.5 millimeters and something about that extra 0.5 millimeter in the Artisan pads, this has a more spongy feel to it. So with that on a control pad and with it being more spongy, I feel like there was more stopping power with the Hayate Otsu. I can sort of dig my mouse in more with that extra spongy, material to it. Now, that's also not a big deal or a deal breaker. It all depends on, again, what DPI you're playing at and your play style. If you're not someone who sort of like digs your mouse in to drag to stop, that's not going to affect you at all. But it was something that I picked up on. It's not as spongy as the Artisan pad is. And like I was saying before, with all 3 pads having some speed element to them, while it is very much a control pad, it's probably the fastest control pad that I've used. Definitely a little bit faster than the Raiden, I'd say, but it is worth pointing out because I've used some control pads where it feels like, you're going through the mud, but that's not the case here. It's pretty cool. The control's the one that I played with the most, again, because I love sniping in games. Battlefield 5 has taken many years of my life and off my life, and this is just the best one that complements my playstyle, which is the most important thing when it comes to a mousepad. So then that'll lead us over to the balance pad, which is, as the name implies, a balance between the speed and the control. And for those who've used the original QCK pad, this feels very, very similar to that, but updated and modernized for this performance lineup. So this is pretty much the modern re-release, I would say, of the QCK. I do think, obviously the balance is going to appeal to more people overall, Because, in theory, it's the best of both worlds. It's a high density stitching to that polyester material, so that high density gives you the control, but it's still soft enough on the surface to give your mouse a smooth glide. So that's where it's touching on some of those speed elements. Smooth enough with the speed, but also you have enough stopping power to touch on the side of the control. Now, with that being said, it's not necessarily a knock of the balance pad itself, because it's kind of its main appeal. It's the least impressive because the others have a very distinct, feel and play style to them, while this honestly just feels like your ordinary cloth pad out there, which again sounds bad, but it's not. It's blending both those elements, and just naturally it's gonna feel just like a sort of a standard cloth pad, which is also why, like I've been saying, it's probably going to appeal to a lot more people out there. So this is gonna be for the casual gamer who plays a bunch of different games. You play to have fun, not necessarily competitively. So, if you're bouncing back and forth between Minecraft and Valorant to GTA to COD, a bunch of different games, the balance is gonna be that perfect balance to complement your just everyday gameplay style. That's the best way to put it here. So all in all, this release is a fantastic thing for the gaming community. Having these Artisan equivalent pads out there now from a giant mass-produced company like Steelseries is going to be doing, you're going to be getting great new pads to pick from for a very, very wallet-friendly price, considering, the Artisan market and all these new ones that are popping up, $100 plus. This, half that. I would say, maybe get two even and see what feels best for you. I do have some minor nitpicks, and the first thing was on my speed pad, you may have noticed it. It was just the speed pad as well. It has this vertical angled indentation. I don't know if it's an issue during manufacture where it was pressed up against something permanently or something got messed up with the stitching, but you can see the weird imprint that it has. And also with that, on the same speed pad, where the label is, it had this dimple where you can see it was stitched underneath. So a dimple in the surface there, not great. So with it being a new release, I would say if you don't want to dive in right now, keep an eye on some of the quality control, because I just found that kind of odd. Another little nitpick on my part is the logo on the bottom. It's a vinyl material, or it feels like vinyl at least. It's not the same material as the rest of the pad. It's white on the larger side. I wish it was maybe just, black, maybe blended in a bit more. It doesn't interfere at all. It's just, I don't know. It's just weird to have two different materials just for a logo. And then lastly, it's still winter. I can't really test humidity, but none of them had any water resistance properties. That's definitely kind of a bummer, especially if you're clumsy. After doing some tests, the water will bead up for a second, but it still is soaking in. So for me, I think the overall winner here is the speed pad. It's really unique. It feels great, and it's gonna be a fan favorite. I know it. But me personally, I'm going to be rocking with the control pad for a while. Love the way it complements my playstyle in Battlefield, but I feel like, the balance is going to be another popular one. They've really knocked it out of the park here. Really, really friendly prices, 3 different materials. Steelseries is doing something fantastic in the mouse market, the mouse pad market. And I know right now this is gonna be a massive hit. So that'll wrap it up for my review of all 3 of the QCK Performance pad with the speed, the control, and the balance. Hope you all enjoyed. If you wanna check them out, I'll have them all listed for you guys in the description down below. I'll put both the large and the extra large pads. And again, at the price, you can buy 2. Try different materials, switch them out, all that good stuff. But if you like this review, give it a big thumbs up, show your support. Feel free to follow me on all socials at randomfrankp. Last, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. Hope you enjoyed. Have a good day.